There's a star shining bright in the heavens tonight. I wonder what it means, what it means. Oh, the star shining bright has a message for tonight. A babe is born in Bethlehem. Ave, 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 Maria, Maria, O Rosa Mystica. Ave, 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 O Salvator Mundi. Oh, yeah, He is wrapped in swaddling clothes, in a manger does he go. Child of Virgin Mary, mystic rose. In Jehovah's holy land, shepherds watching for their flocks. Hear angelic tidings from God's hand. Ave,
Hi, here's everybody again. This is Mary's True Traditional Values. Hello, and thanks for your letters. Thanks for your inquiries. And also we'd like you to know that this is our team song, and anybody who is interested in this beautiful music in our recording can write to the address indicated if they want to obtain some tapes. Now we're introducing my guests again. Our topic today is the fall and decline of Western civilization. As I told you on our last show, we would follow up, and this is our follow-up second series. And I introduce again my guest, Mr. Victor Zino, our religious and political historian. I introduce Mr. Joe Johnston, our research man in religious history. And I introduce a new visitor today, who is Mr. Copernicus, who is the owner of a band, a rock and roll band, and who is here today to confront our traditional values with his beliefs, totally contrary and an opposite to what we are talking about. So I promise this to be a very interesting show. Starting with the reality of hell and purgatory. Victor, what do we have to say?
Well, hell and purgatory have been traditional beliefs in the Western tradition up until, I would say, Vatican II, when it has become a controversial subject whereby theologians are arguing amongst themselves whether or not there is such a thing as hell or purgatory. Maybe Joe could give us some of the traditional teachings of the church about hell and purgatory, or why we believe in such a tradition.
So then we hear afterwards Mr. Copernicus, and he will tell us why he doesn't believe. So Joe, what is the big
Some of the main reasons why we don't
realities
believe.
of hell?
Father Gruner has brought a very interesting article on the reality of hell. This is from the Claretian, St. Anthony Claretian. God is just in his punishments. He rewards the upright with the glory of heaven and punishes the wicked with the sorrows of hell.
Okay. The first point of meditation, the pain of the loss of God, in particular, one who is damned loses the enjoyment of God. How is that? What effect does that have?
A Christian who is condemned to hell loses God, the supreme good, and eternal happiness.
Now, what about the non-Christian?
Okay, those people that are not baptized still have original sin on their soul, so therefore they will go either to hell or limbo.
Okay, but how can they be condemned to hell if they have never been baptized?
Because they still have they have a certain inherited sin. from the
Yeah, but still.
disobedience of Eve. They've inherited original sin.
Yes,
They
but
still
that's
have,
not their fault. Why are they condemned to hell now? Because they're not being baptized.
because of the fact that they've been, their life has been, is because of the
Victor,
union of
Can
sinful
you help him
people.
out?
Well, I understand that those who die without being baptized aren't necessarily sent to the hell of punishment, but a hell what you might call is limbo, which is nothing more than denial of the sight of God. But they wouldn't go under anything like hellfire or torture because they haven't committed sin of any kind. So it would be just the denial of seeing God, which is supposed to be the main enjoyment of having the beatific vision.
Okay, so now what about purgatory?
Well, purgatory would be the same thing. They wouldn't go to purgatory again because they haven't committed sin. Therefore, the only ones who would go to purgatory would be those who believe in God and didn't live up to the teachings the way they were taught, and because of human weakness, they would have to do some kind of amendment in purgatory until they are cleared of their sin and then are worthy to be perfect enough to enjoy the beatific vision, which is the sight of God for all eternity.
All right, now Mr. Copernicus has heard all of this, the explanations why it's so important to know God, to believe in God, why there is a hell, why there is a purgatory, and he resents all of this. Now he's going to tell us why.
Well, basically, I believe that nothing exists, that we don't exist, that we are just, that the atoms that make up our body are constantly changing, that we don't stay the same from one moment to the next. So there is no such thing as death, there is no such thing as life, there is no such thing as birth. There is really nothing, everything is in constant change.
Constant change, and we are just a creation
We are
of
nothing,
the universe?
we're not here. We're not here.
Okay, who has something to say about this?
Well, isn't that a contradiction? If you say we're not here, then why are we talking to one another?
No, that's an illusion that's coming to this thing called the brain, which is itself in constant change. These are all passing illusions, one inventing one upon another.
In other words, what is taking place is not taking place. It's a contradiction.
Nothing takes place. Everything is just changing quickly. The core element of matter, the atom, doesn't even exist because there are even smaller particles making up the atom.
Yeah, but if you took up a theory whereby you believed in the absolute and the relative, you would say God is in the absolute realm or the absolute domain, and we are in the relative domain. Therefore, we could come up with this error of which you're bringing out right now, whereby we cannot understand what life is all about. But God, in his intrinsic nature, does know what the whole world is about because we are nothing more than a creature of God. Therefore, we cannot understand the infinite mind of God. And therefore, that would be, you might say, a finite error on our part.
Yeah, but you're talking about a God that is outside, away from us, apart from us. But maybe everything is God. Who knows? You know?
But we ourselves are the creature of God. So you would have the...
Well, I say we're not here, so we're not really a creature of anything because we're not here. You're determining reality with your human senses.
Yeah, but I'm saying that you are coming up with error, and therefore your own thinking is an error.
Well, what is my error?
To say that nothing is here, everything is illusion.
You can't see that's true?
On this, Joe?
Well, we wouldn't be able to carry on a normal conversation if everything was illusion. I don't think
because
this
I'm
is
looking
an illusion.
at things from the atomic point of view.
When you say atomic, what do you mean by atomic?
Is your flesh made up of atoms?
Yes,
Is your blood and bones?
yes.
So your flesh and bones are changing constantly through the atomic makeup of matter.
To have a more complete picture, if you just believe in nothingness, it's incomplete because
It's beautiful.
If we can conceive of completion, then we can conceive of something and nothing, and therefore something and nothing is more truthful than just having nothing. So therefore, the existence of God and nothingness is more complete, is more truthful than just having nothingness.
So in other words, God is something and creature is nothing.
Well,
basically.
The creature is a creature of God.
Because we don't have any existence in ourselves.
He's the created
We are
substance.
dependent totally on God for everything. So therefore we have all our life in God himself.
So would he be a specimen of the Antichrist to that
Well, I would
predicted?
say this is the type of reasoning Antichrist would want in the world, whereby once we can negate God and the absolute, then you can do anything you want and everything in life becomes relative, and this is where we are today. That's why we are having the fall and decline of modern and Western civilization, because we no longer believe in the absolute, objective, essential discipline that we had before, which is what brought civilization to where it is today.
But as you know, all religions die. They're born, they die.
Not all religions. I mean, the religion we have today is
It's a very new religion,
No,
Christianity.
no, no. Christianity is development, basically, of Judaism, which goes back to the original creation.
No, the Jews received their religion from the ancient Egyptians.
No, this is the new trend.
No, that's the fact.
Not
It's historical
the way.
fact.
This is supposed to be handed down to the prophets by God Himself directly.
Adam and Eve knew the true faith directly by communication with the Almighty directly. Now, their descendants, of course, knew more truth than we because they had a more immediate
Now we
contact.
blend in the Ten Commandments, so maybe we can bring the Ten Commandments into this conversation, which is what was given on the Mount to the Jews. So how do you explain that? You resent that? That's non-existent?
Yeah, but ancient Egypt goes back for 4,000 years before Christ. The Jews, there weren't even Jews before that time. There weren't Jews before that time. They were just a bunch of wandering guys. There were no such thing as Jews.
Well, there was a descendants of Adam and Eve. The Egyptians are descendants of Adam and Eve, and the Hebrews, who believed in one God, were also descendants of Adam and Eve, and they're all descendants of Adam and Eve. Now, the various peoples of the world, through time, their view of truth or their understanding of truth became vaguer and vaguer through time and so forth, and through generations, and so therefore the truth got mixed with other things and other influences.
Victor, how do we explain the miracles and the apparitions into all this in his non-belief?
Well,
there's no proof of these
definitely,
miracles.
Copernicus here would say it's all illusion. But actually, we're dealing with the mind, which is a spiritual entity. I mean, I can go back to Christ Himself where He says, the flesh profits nothing, it's the spirit that gives life. Now, the spirit is not something you can see. But getting back to Genesis and the original Bible, I just want to make a statement about when God spoke to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Now, after the fall, after they committed sin, this is what God said to the woman. I will multiply thy sorrows and thy conceptions. In sorrow shalt thou bring forth children, and thou shalt be under thy husband's power, and he shall have dominion over thee. Now to Adam, God said, because thou hast hearkened to the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee, that thou shouldst not eat,
and also the
cursed
verbal.
is the earth in thy work, with labor and toil shalt thou eat thereof all the days of thy life. So what would you say about that, where we have God speaking to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden? I mean, would you say this is just illusionary on the part of the voice that spoke to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden?
We could talk on two levels. We could talk on the world of illusion or the world of Copernicus. To me, everything is an illusion. So I mean, that's that. Okay, everything is an illusion. Nothing exists. Now, if you talk about in terms of the world of illusion, we can communicate on that level. As far as I know, I just came from Egypt. I saw the crucifix on walls that were Ramses walls at Abu Simbel go 3000 BC. So there were no 3000 BC means before Christ.
Yes.
The crucifix is on the
Yes.
wall. You know.
Which is a
Immortality, original sin, virgin birth. These are all. These are all.
When you say the crucifix, you mean the cross or the crucifix?
against the
But yeah, but the
This
cross
is a wonderful confirmation
No.
of the true faith. Truth has existed throughout all time.
No,
So
but wait,
therefore-
if it's just the cross is a symbol which has been used all through.
Yeah, well, that's where they got the crucifix from.
in other words, you're trying to say that Christianity was an adopted ideology from some other source.
Yeah, definitely right.
Or it can be looked upon as the truth, since the truth exists throughout all time. The fact that those symbols pre-existed the public appearance of Jesus is a beautiful confirmation of the truth that existed throughout all time.
I look at it more as an evolving time of evolving perceptions of what reality is. And when he says that we're in decline, and I think it's good that it's in decline because the new world is coming, where we use science to perceive reality. We now use science to find out what is real and how to live.
The only trouble is science has come out with the nuclear and the atomic bomb, which can wipe out all civilization altogether. And then again, there's negative all over again. Without a supreme being to tell you what you can do and what you can't do, you will wipe yourself out and commit what is called cosmological suicide.
But if there's no humanity on the face of the earth, that's no big deal either. You know, we can do without human beings. The earth will...
So in other words, we'll go right back to God alone with His creation in the next world.
Why not? I mean,
Well, that would be the
I
answer
mean,
maybe
if
to the whole
humanity
thing.
is not here, it's no big deal. I mean, you know, the earth will
So
continue.
here we go. So we get to our next subject. This was
the-
very well covered.
The infinite attributes of God demand that.
How do you know so much about God? I don't understand that.
You
How do I
will
know so much?
Yeah, well, who are you?
Well, for any soul that wishes to know truth,
from the books.
it's accessible to any soul who
Yeah.
really, really wants to know truth. It's accessible to them through the holy books, through the teachings of the church, through the lives of the saints, through infused knowledge from above, through the modern apparitions of today's time.
Why are the Christians the biggest monsters on the face of the earth? Why do they make atomic bombs? It was a Christian country that dropped an atomic bomb. Why are Christians the biggest exploiters of humanity on the face of the earth?
Well,
What is
God
what
is
is
in-
this?
God
What is
is-
this book producing? Is what I
God-
That's
like.
only
God is
because the
infinite-
pagans
God is
didn't come out with
infinite
the
in justice.
inventions first, that's all.
God is
They
infinite
had
in
the pagans
justice.
had their books too.
I'm sure if the pagans
Well, you
had
see,
the modern inventions, they
Mr.
would wipe out
Copernicus, you
humanity.
have to
too.
realize on the overall picture of the totality of good and evil in the universe, all this supposed destruction that Christians have wrought might, looking at the totality of good that they've done,
Also-
it probably outweighs. In other words, the totality of good that's manifested in Christianity
could probably be argued.
outweighs any evil that has ever.
That could seriously be argued.
Well, that's only from your human perspective. You must be absolute truth. In the
I'm
Holy
sure if you were a
Faith.
black man in Africa, you wouldn't be saying that.
Maybe because he hasn't been introduced to it.
Introduced
Could be.
to what?
To
To
the
slavery.
Christianity.
Slavery.
Okay, so Victor,
All civilization comes from the true faith
we
and
want
from
to
Christian
speak about
Christianity.
our next subject here that follows up on this in reference to the Vatican-Moscow Agreement. The abortions, strangely enough, Mr. Copernicus is against abortions. So maybe we can talk a little on the abortions and the Vatican-Moscow Agreement and the children that are murdering their parents, the social decline, the religious decline, which is the Vatican-Moscow Agreement, and the political collapse, of course, which we could pick up when we're finished with this, is the burning of our flag. So what about these liberal theologians?
Well, the liberal theologians have again been declared by the Vatican, by Cardinal Ratzinger, to be out of line and have been told that they have to follow the absolute doctrines of the church. And the reason for that is because he says the church is not a democracy. I mean, it's not something that you can say, well, the values of God are relative. The values of God are absolute with relationship to man. Man must follow them in order to reach heaven in the next world. So the church won't allow the theologians to treat it like a democratic argument or something where you have both sides. There's only one side, it's the side of God, and this is what you have to do in order to reach God. So they won't allow the theologians to go into discussion on this.
So how
anymore.
do we convert Mr. Copernicus by making it plausible to him this validity of the Christianity?
There you're going into mystery.
I left it. How could I go? You want me to go back?
No, there was an answer, prayer, because we are told prayer can move mountains, and if prayer can move mountains, it could also convert Copernicus, who at one time was brought up with Catholic teachings.
All right, so how do you explain that you are against abortions? Where
Well,
does this
to
come
me,
in?
abortion is murder, and
But why
if they
would you be interested in murder for?
if they legalize murder, then let them legalize abortion. But it's the same thing. You are murdering. You are killing a life, or you are killing life, and
Well,
that's
is
all it
that-
is. There's no difference between murder and abortion. I agree with that.
But is that important to you, or
No,
is it
it's
just
not
an
important.
illusion? Is that another illusion?
Well, it is illusion. There's no such thing as death. In the world of Copernicus, there is no such thing as life, beginning or end or death. So really, in the world of Copernicus, it makes no difference.
Oh, I see. So it,
Is this the part of the thinking of the New Age, which is coming into being today?
I don't know. I don't think anybody agrees with me. I don't. I wouldn't want anybody else to be inflicted with what I think.
how can we then explain that we have reached that the first part was destroyed by water and the second part is going to be destroyed by fire? And so how can we explain all these things that have happened in reference to that?
Well, the question is, does Mr. Copernicus believe that the world was destroyed by water at the time of Noah and the flood, or is that, according to you, just a fable?
No, I think there were in the past there were floods, and in that
Which have totally
in the Tigris
destroyed.
Euphrates Valley there were floods.
So
When the
you were-
Nile went over, there were floods.
In other words, you were just
And
localizing.
so
them
some guy
to-
wrote about he thought that was the whole world, you know, and of course that was his whole world.
Well,
But it didn't. It certainly didn't flood everywhere else. But.
You certainly must distinguish. You certainly must distinguish knowledge, human knowledge, versus the knowledge from above, celestial knowledge which is coming from above. Now, all of the thoughts that Mr. Copernicus has indicated, a lot of it, well, most of it originates from human source. The Christian faith originates from the supernatural, from the celestial thoughts from above, from beyond. And it's all confirmed with miracles and wonderful lives of the saints and other sources.
So what do we have to say now on the Vatican-Moscow Agreement, Victor?
Well, the Vatican-Moscow Agreement is the agreement which kept the Vatican and the Pope from, what would I say now? In other words, why they did not speak against communism during Vatican II. If they didn't make that agreement, they would have consecrated Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. And according to our revelation, communism would just gradually die out of its own accord. And until the Pope does command all the bishops all over the world on a certain day to consecrate Russia to the Immaculate Heart, the world is subject to doomsday, well, who knows, within the very near future.
We believe that maybe, probably, the beginning in the East is now by Gorbachev, the loosening up of religion again in the East and the freedom given thereby, because we have realized that these satanic, let's call, forces have enslaved men. Okay, when they are in command, they enslave men, and the Christian people are giving us freedom. The Christian beliefs. So what about this cardinal now? We have had enslavement for how many years on this Tridentine Mass? And now Cardinal Ratzinger proclaims that the faith is in crisis around the world.
Well, right now we have a revival of the Latin Tridentine Mass. In fact, in the United States, Father Michelli just sent out a survey to 4,561 priests, and of those 4,500, 11% said they would say the Latin Tridentine Mass were the Pope to give his full consent. And not only that, a poll taken back in let me see if I can get the exact date, 84 or 87, shows that 40% of American Catholics all would welcome the Latin Tridentine Mass back again. So therefore, it is not true what the American Episcopacy is telling the American people, that there is no demand. Actually today, and this poll was only taken a short time ago, 11% of the American priests would say the Mass once they got the full approval of the Pope. And you have some 40% of American Catholics. Not only that, actually 50% would attend, although 40% are the ones who are doing all the fighting right now. Mm-hmm. But if it was made easily available, easily accessible, 51% of the American Catholics would attend the Latin Mass at a convenient place at a convenient time, not the way it is today in the Diocese of Brooklyn, in some high school which is put down a hill once every 2 weeks and makes it very inconvenient. You have to take an elevator, go upstairs. So this is nothing more than what you call a system of inconvenience to discourage the Tridentine Catholics from getting back what was stolen away from them by Vatican II.
And why is that that Tridentine Mass so valuable to the Catholics?
Because this is what kept the Catholic faith alive for 2,000 years, and by getting rid of the Tridentine Mass, the Catholic Church is on its last legs right today here in America, as well as throughout the whole world.
That's
because you're introducing guitars, rock and roll, and everything else, which has nothing to do with the crucifixion of God. You're dealing with an infinite entity now. And you're making a sacrilege which can bring on the end of the world, unless somebody in authority, like the Pope, does get the cardinals and the popes together again and, so to speak, hits them over the head and says, okay, there will be the consecration of the world, of Russia, to the Immaculate Heart on a certain day.
Okay, people, now we have heard all our controversies. Now let's go and switch over to our Steuben Parade, which I want to introduce. Is going to be in September 15 and it's going to be publicized, and you want to blend in the flag now and the Steuben picture, and that we have, because we want to highlight here also that if it wasn't for Baron von Steuben, there would not have been a civil war, and there would have been no freedom in this country.
The American Revolution.
When our famous George Washington was on his last leg with his ragtag army, Baron von Steuben came and told and brought into discipline and organization and built an army whereby it was possible to win the Civil War, right?
The revolution.
The revolution. Okay, I'm sorry. So therefore, we won the revolution, which was the basis for our freedom in this country, that we're able today to speak freely. And this is important, and thereby we want to give, again, consecration to our flag. And let's all have, I don't know if Mr. Copernicus is in agreement. Maybe he's not.
We don't want the flag to be burned because it's the soul, the spirit of America, and
Yes.
this is the spirit.
I really, the flag is not something I want
So,
to fly right now.
He
You don't believe it exists.
He doesn't. We are now saluting the flag because we don't want it burned.
It's the very soul, spirit of America for what America
Patriotism
stands.
is patriotism is the
It's a
most
symbol.
horrendous concept on the face of the earth. And if this symbolizes patriotism, it's terrible. Patriotism should stop. It's an old idea. It's
All right.
had its day, just like Christianity.
It's his view against
it's giving
ours,
happiness to
and
millions.
thank God we are enjoying the freedom that we're able to express our controversial viewpoints, feelings, and the way we think. Everybody here in this country, we're no other country, we're able to think for ourselves, we're able to express our viewpoints, our controversies, and we were very happy to discuss these controversies today, which made it more interesting for everybody to watch our show. Now, let's discuss some last viewpoints here that any one of you wants to bring up. Victor, Joe,
The truth of
Copernicus.
the Catholic faith, of the Holy Faith, has led to civilization. The civilization that we know today is based on the wonderful order that is coming from the Holy Faith through God, and all the things that we have that
And why
are
is the
beautiful.
Catholic religion then dying now?
The seeds of Satan have entered.
It's not the seeds
Rome.
of Satan. It's just that all religions come and go, and the Egyptian religion lasted
for 2,000 years.
Egyptian religion lasted 4,000 years, okay, and it died. You know.
But Christianity is a continuation
Osiris,
of Judaism,
those
which
things
goes
died.
back 4,000 years.
And you might put up an argument that
It
Judaism
may
is on the way out.
appear to
Okay,
wane.
people, I
Things may
hope
appear
you
to wane,
enjoyed
but they
our
still
show.
exist.
We see you again. Thank you for watching. And just finish your argument because we don't know when we go off. So what is it?
The appearance of the truth will never die, and the Holy Faith that embodies the true faith will never perish. It may appear to wane, but it will always be kept alive by God.
Truth is relative.
Thank you. Too bad you were not
Only part of
that.
the truth, only part of the truth is relative. The totality of truth is absolute.
In other words, human truth is relative, absolute truth is not relative. Absolute truth is God.
I have the same feeling to search out absolute truth. I really have that same feeling and desire in me.
You believe there is something around while you're here, right? Even though you think this is all an illusion, right?
This is definitely an illusion.
But there is something that you don't understand, which is God. You see, nobody says they understand
I don't
God.
really like that word so much because you never know what it means. What do you mean by that word? You know? If you mean that if you mean that God is some exterior force outside of us who sits up in a place called heaven and he watches and he knows that there is a guy called me and a guy called Victor and Mary and knows us individually